Lovely time. On the top right-hand corner, last week we had, I think it was on Friday, we had the wellness fair for all of the employees. Lots of different vendors talking about things that can make our employees healthier, happier. I think we had some insurance folks that were here. Who else? No, who else came?
401k representative.
401k.
Yeah, 17 members.
17 vendors that were here, so that was a really, really good success. So that's all I have for what's happening. I'm going to talk a little bit about the slated candidates at the very end, but I'm going to turn it over to John Carpenter for the budget.
Super, nothing to report. Actually, it's a very good message, and it kind of links with what you're going to hear from Tom Johnson. When Tom shows you some of the renderings, and we're still working on business cases and costing, I'm absolutely positive most, if not all of you, are going to love it. I can tell you also all going to wonder how we're going to pay for it. So I'm going to start with talking about our financial position. I'm going to show you some figures on where we're going to end this year and where we're going to go next year, so it'll give you some comfort that we're in a very good place. It's a complex business that we have. I kind of liken it to a duck on the water. It's all very calm on the surface as the entire club team delivers a seamless member experience, all the things that you want, where you want it, how you want it, and underneath it's controlled chaos. It's a $35 million business when you bring in joining fees and capital reserve fees as well. It's $64 million in assets that need to be taken care of. Just a quick reminder of the process, very similar to previous years. And I want to give a huge thank you to all the department heads that tackled this process very well. Thank you to Rachel, our controller, who was the ringleader getting all this together. And a thank you to the finance committee. You'll hear me talk a little bit more, but this year we assigned a finance committee member to each of the departments to be their liaison, their advisor, and also their advocate when it came to consolidating everything. We had a very lengthy assumptions page and document that went out to them. We asked for a first iteration. When that second one came in, and sometimes third or fourth, we work with the department with a finance committee member, in some cases board members assigned to those committees. Finally, on the 6th of November, the finance committee approved the numbers you're about to see. And on Tuesday of this week, the board officially approved the numbers you're going to see after we had a special workshop on the 10th to allow board members voluntarily, if they wanted to come and dive into the numbers, ask questions, and make sure they understood it before approval. They could, and everybody showed for that, so I was pretty happy. Here are the key assumptions. There are more than that, but the ones that you would think about are going to influence the budget. Think about tariffs and general inflation. We said assume a 3% increase in cost of goods sold. I know Chef's propane has gone through the roof. I know Martin's golf balls for the range have gone through the roof, just to name a few. But just use a 3% assumption. And merit increases for the employees to make sure they're within industry standards of about 3.8%. Amenity fees and joining fees, we took very conservatively as flat to down. And I'll show you those numbers, but we want to make sure we're setting ourselves up for success. Finally, the cash reserves, 5.7 million that have always been here, still are and will remain in place. The guardrails throughout, we're going to do a bottom-up budget and try and get as much revenue and cost control as we can. But I know it's not a surprise to you, all of the amenities are subsidized, that's why we have dues. But to the extent we can, we want to get to a positive 3% cash after adding back amortization and depreciation. And it's a place that we've never been, that I can recall, until this year. And we're shooting for 3% next year, which is industry standards. We want to get to these numbers without charging $100 for a hamburger. And make sure we don't compromise the member experience. And we also want to retain a fantastic rock star leadership and employee team here, so we're going to reward them accordingly in the numbers. If we can do all that well, we should be able to have very minimal dues increase as we're going through this process. Going to show you a lot of numbers. All of these are going to be on the video. I don't know if we put the presentation on the website as well, but we'll make these available to you. But I thought it was important for you to see the numbers. You're going to see 3 years of numbers in the next 3 slides. To the left, 2024. Middle is our best estimate of forecast, and we have actual through October. So this should be fairly high confidence that those are the numbers. And then our budget for 26. Every year on 24, 25, 26, a little less than half of the budget comes from the dues. And then you can kind of see the amenities underneath. Some minor changes. The equestrian group has to deal with the trails being closed for a little bit while some of the water main pipes are being worked on. And then you can kind of see the pickleball addition helping out racket sports as just a few examples. In that other side, you have things such as real estate building rent, amenity fees. But one of the other things that's in there, and it may seem small, but I think it's a good indication of the diligence this team is putting in place. How many of you are aware that we have a large parking area near the maintenance facilities by the garden? So back in 2022, the revenue from having people store and pay rent to store their things there was $67,000. And with Rusty and Michelle really adding some diligence to that, we put a gate in for security as well. Following up on contracts, really marketing, if you will, the availability of that space. The revenue that will reduce the cost or go towards our revenue for next year will be $136,000 out of that space. So good for them. And that's an example everywhere where we're trying to turn the dials that we can without making it painful for the members in the process. So the previous slide, you saw $29,804,000. Now you see in the upper right as we go down the income statement. And I want to focus in on cost of goods sold and payroll. Remember that 3% inflation. We're actually at a little under 2% year on year for cost of goods sold, and we kept payroll in check as well. So the merit increase is there, but head count, other ways to control the payroll, we were able to keep that under, the team was able to keep that under 2%. And then other department expenses, a lot of contributions there, but if you remember, we had an unfortunate deep water well damage or breakdown on the island, and that created a higher water bill for the club as they irrigated the golf courses. We have lower credit card fees, we have lower administration salaries, and a lot of other categories that have kept those expenses down and lower than they'll be this year. And remember that goal of trying to get to 3% positive cash on operations. The $260,000 this year, I didn't go back too far before COVID, but I don't believe we've ever had that. If you get rid of the COVID relief funds, we have always ended up from operations kind of chewing at our cash. And this is a great place to be and makes us very financially stable. And we're going to 2.84% or $846,000 in our budget for 26. Here's that 846 up top. Let's focus on capital spend and new member joining fees because it really impacts our cash at the bottom. So as I mentioned, we're taking a very conservative view on the joining fees. This year we'll end up at $3.9 million, and that's net of payments for reimbursable assessments. And for 2026, we're going to lower that to $3 million. What we want to watch is the real estate market. We're assuming it's going to be flat, and that's just our budgeting assumption for the sake of new joining fees and not wanting to put too high a number in there. The other thing that we've seen this year and last is some of the highest percentages ever of Seabrokers buying Seabrokers homes, which generates no new joining fees. To me, it's a great sign that people love to live here, and they're upgrading their places or location or size or whatever they're doing. But that high percentage also reduces or impacts the joining fees. From a capital spend standpoint, the $2.379 million for this year, we originally were going to spend $4.3. Two projects did not happen. One was the first half of the Learning Center. It was going gonna, if you recall in last year's budget, we were gonna start that at the end of this year. That's now wrapped into the master planning projects that Tom will talk to you about. The other one was 1.3 million for the laundry facility. We've been bouncing around the location on that, and the soil stability was an issue. We finally have that nailed down. That project will proceed and is in the 3.6 figure. But as a result of not spending 4.3, $2 million in cash goes to the bottom line. Gives us plus the 260,000 positive cash we'll have from operations. And we will start the year off with just under 11 million in cash. And as we go into next year's budget, bringing in another 665,000, without spending any money, we'll have 11.6 million in cash. 5.7 remains in reserves. And a quick reminder for the reserves, this is the same we've done for the last several years. And as we pay down our debt, which we intend to do, the reserve for principal payments will be able to come down. We're constantly revisiting this to make sure we're covered for insurance coverage on buildings and deductible. We actually have better coverage at a slightly lower cost this year, which is great. Hard to cover the golf course, but all of this is intended to make sure that we can light the wick again if we have a catastrophic failure. I mean, people are going to leave the island, they're not going to go to an empty restaurant, they can't serve food, so the revenue is going to be down. Retaining the employees, making sure we can fix ourselves and get upright is what that 5.7 is intended to do. Here's the CapEx projects that we currently have in the budget, the biggest being the laundry facility. A lot of the rest of it is maintenance and replacement. We are going to propose, after we finish the business cases and the costing, another project that will be added to this, but it's premature to put a number up there right now. What I can tell you is that the projects that Tom are about to show you, that with our current financial position being as strong as it is, there will be no need for a special assessment next year, regardless of the projects we start, and no need for additional debt next year. So kind of to summarize before Tom comes up, we are going to have a dues increase of about 3%. We're taking the capital reserve fees up 10%. That equates to $5 a month to $12 a month, depending on your membership level. So $60 to $144 additional. We are continuing to service all of our debt. We're continuing to reimburse equity for the reimbursable equity members, and our reserves will stay fully funded. You're in a very good place financially. We are sitting in a good position to decide what we all want to collectively do going forward. And now I'd like to introduce Tom to come and talk about some of those projects. He and I will then come back up to talk about some of the long-term funding models, and I'll be available for questions of any kind at the end.
Tom Johnson here. I'm the chair of the Long Range Planning Committee. I'm also your club vice president. I included my email in there, so as you start to see some of these renderings, you have some questions, you have some comments, tom.johnson@seabrookisland.com. So let's dig in. I'll give you a little background. I'm going to show you some of the renderings. I'm not showing blueprints today. I just thought it'd be kind of an eye chart, but we do have blueprints started. Our contractors, our architects aren't here today. So let's jump in. So the master plan program was recommended out of a strategy we did back in 2024. I was on the long range planning committee, but not on the board at the time. But I have been involved the whole time. And when we looked over where we want to go, we said, let's do it as a master plan, not a bunch of one-off plans. And we also had a master plan for the golf courses, and we're starting to incorporate that. The next step was, I was representing SAPOA and the town, and we came together and said, let's coordinate and do one master plan rather than three. So I think I see some town representatives here, I see some POA representatives here, and it's been really great working together on this plan. And I think it's really going to hold together as a roadmap going into the future for future boards and committees. What came out of that work, so KDC is our architecture partner, and they have a landscaping, hardscaping partner called Wood Partners. But they delivered this picture that you've seen hopefully in the open houses and some of the communications around the 7 zones. And the zones are a way to kind of cluster and look at our properties and our amenities in groups. So that was March 25. We've done, we did an open house with those outcomes. We have comments and continue to communicate based on those zones. What we did next is we said, let's focus on a first phase of concepts. And we engaged KDC and Wood to start to develop those concepts. They actually delivered those to us Monday morning. It was early. So I've been working to put them together so you can see them, but they're pretty fresh. And again, I'm not going to show you the blueprints today, but we do have blueprints. The objective, how many architects are in the room? Raise hands. Let's see a couple. Brad's not raising his hand. But the next step is to take those sizes and work with the construction estimator to get us the costs. So what you're going to see today are the renderings. The costs will come next. We've also asked the committees and the department heads to work with us to really build a business case to bring to the membership in terms of what the strategic rationale, why, how much, and when. And it all gets pretty complicated from here. What I wanted to do for a second is just go back and recall that back in 24, we did the strategic plan. We asked the membership, what drove your choice to pick Seabrook for your home or your property? What are the top 5? And if you look at those results from 2024, they're really guiding us in terms of what we're thinking, what are the priorities. The beach club, the quality of the golf courses, food and beverage offerings, culture and atmosphere, the membership itself, and then the racket facilities. The other one's making a more family-oriented environment that really highlights to me. So you'll see us using these filters in terms of what we prioritized, as well as the focus groups we did last year, and then the open meetings. You ready? Here's the 8 concepts. I'm going to go through each one of them with a little bit of rendering, a little bit of color. Racket sports, how many people are up at the Racket Sports Center on a regular basis? How many people think we need some more parking up there? So we're working on that. That's probably our closest to shovel-ready project, but it still has to go through construction design and permitting. The Island House, the front porch, the ballroom, the event room refresh, so this room, the porches, just really bringing that up to spec. Window coverings and such, I'll talk more about that. The beach club and the pool area, new hardscaping, new entry, just really simplifying the gate access, making it more friendly, a little more personal. 3, 4, 5, 6, expanded fast casual over at the Nest. I'll get into that a little bit. Everyone loves the Nest. The problem is the state doesn't allow us to do much with the Nest, the building itself. So we've come up with some creative ideas to get some more fast casual dining over there. The bigger one is the new sports grill and a pub. The idea is to replace the current pro shop and turn that into the sports grill and move the pro shop over into its own attached building. We'll show you that. We've had various ideas along the way in terms of extending the porch. Where do we put another restaurant? We want to leverage Chef's Current kitchens and try to get the most bang for our buck without adding a lot more building space. So we'll show you the ideas there. 7 and 8, back to the new player development center and a practice area renovation, primarily impacting Crooked. And then I think Mark and Sean have talked to the community and the membership about the Crooked Oaks renovation. We're including that as part of this planning because it all kind of links together in terms of sequencing. All right, number 1, the tennis court, the Racket Sports Center. We have 3 choices for parking. I won't spend a lot of time on this because it's kind of dry. We're looking for 20 to 25 spots, working with the town and the county. Point A is over kind of by courts 7 and 8, directly across from the lake house. B is up top where the new courts are, the courts 11 through 14, a new maintenance center. Not quite enough. F where we put some diagonal parking in along the entrance. And then the bigger opportunity is H where we can get almost 19 to 20 spots but we're back under the trees and we're, it's quite a bit of shifting around. So right now, I own this with our maintenance team and our racket sports team, and we're going to start talking to some vendors that'll help us finish the engineering, and then we'll go to the town and the county and bring you back some costs, and we'll get going, we hope, as we get busy back in the spring. Again, send me questions on any of these. Island House front porch, ballroom, and event refresh, flooring, acoustics, window treatments, lighting, painting, and audiovisual. The Smithsonian wants their projector back, so we have to update some of that. So I think, overall, it adds to these kind of meetings, it adds to events. Events are our number 4 revenue stream, so we really need to continue to invest in these spaces. So I hope you agree. It was also in the strategic plan from 2024 from the Outsider's Look. And again, we want to promote more member activities, anniversaries, birthday parties, family weddings, and the like. Again, the refresh is going to, show the event spaces, really highlight the event spaces we have and the technology. We also think we can get more use out of the porches. I know Christine's looking into some new furniture on the front porch as part of the house committee. But those porches are really nice. They get used more than you think, and we like to have them be used more. And then we think this refresh really starts to set the tone for the Island House going into 4 years. Number 2, the Beach Club. A lot to look at here. I don't think I have a pointer, do I, Ann? All right.
Don't put it in.
Oops. Uh-oh. I played 3 sets of tennis. My hands loose. All right. Thanks, Paul. All right. A couple ideas in here, a lot to chew on. But again, think simplification, more friendly, less gates and slamming metal fences, and just kind of a very commercial conversion from the Island House over. So the idea is to really make this transition a little softer with some landscaping, make this a little more safe and a little more friendly to come into the South Campus. We've got to work with SAPOA in terms of when they're going to do these roads, so I've got some issues there in terms of timing. But kind of come in one point of entry. Today we have 2. You can go up the stairs, you can go around. We want to straighten some of that up. We're thinking of a kind of a welcome house that Matt could staff, and you'd actually have someone welcome you into the pool. We think we can take the grill out if we have this work over with all this new kitchen over here, so we could have some more shaded space. But really a nice view all the way back from the Island House, all the way out to the beach, and then access into the Pelican Nest. Last thing I'm going to show you is we're proposing some seating over here. We wouldn't have food service. Wait a minute, sorry. Wouldn't have food service over there, but we could have temporary seating if the town and the county allowed us. But you could grab a beverage and watch the sunset out there. So just again, trying to get more use out of this space. Keep it pretty simple. Try to clean it up, make it a little more friendly, and a little softer transition. We'll show you. I'll back up here in a minute. You'll see some more drawings. That's a rendering of where we're going to add some seating and this current cafe and the shop get opened up and converted into one big fast casual kitchen. The thought there is pizza, the cooked sandwiches, but again, the opportunity to come in, grab food, sit down, grab food, go to the ocean terrace, grab food, go home. Chef can come up with a variety of menus and ideas, and we're using the existing kitchen. We can't really add a lot of seating or really touch the nest itself, so we're going to open the two existing spaces into one big space. We think we could have some indoor seating, and we're thinking some stools where you could sit there and gobble up some pizza and then jump back in the pool, which you're not supposed to do. Yeah, that's a good idea. But you can start to see how we want to just again make it a little less gated and fenced. So let's move forward into the sports bar and the pro shop. New pro shop attached, pretty well integrated to the existing Island House. Let's see, I think I have some statistics. It's about 1,900 square feet, Martin, I think, somewhere there. New storage, new office space, new conditioned space down below. Take a little bit of better care of our bags and a little better environment for our staff down there. You're seeing the back of the sports bar and grill, kind of a new wall, really using this whole patio for food service. We went and visited the landings down in Savannah, and they're using this kind of fancy pergola or trellis. It's smart, it can respond to sun and light rain, so we can have some extended time out there. I'll show you the interior in a minute, but we're thinking about 75 seats inside, and the rest would be outside. Where you'll see when I back up here in a minute, we're proposing to go to a single putting green. The goal there was we didn't want to take any parking spots out. In fact, we're going to try to add some parking spots, both cars and LSVs. We're also trying to simplify coming in, dropping your bag or dropping your guest. So you'll see some of those considerations as well. But I like the look. I like that it's integrated. I think when we talk with the architects, I think it has a long-term use rather than a standalone building or other ideas we had. So we feel like the integrated building kind of gives us the best long-term solution for Sean and Martin's teams. There's a view of the interior of the sports grill. Like I said, about 75 seats, I think, including the bar area. And a lot of this is just renderings. We'll do a lot more work before we finish it. I'm not a big fan of green. Go Sparty. But, again, as we get into it, how do these doors and windows work? Do they slide all the way open? How do we flow in and out? We think there's a lot of opportunity. Think of happy hour in there. Think of post, LPGA or post women's golf event, being able to use this space, not have to go all the way upstairs. Speaking of upstairs, we've kind of said, let's just leave upstairs the way it is. We redid it recently. And let's get these spaces, once they're approved and make sense, live with them for a while, then go back upstairs and see how we want to use upstairs. We did spend some time originally looking at all that, but where we're at right now is let's just pause that. Let's see if we can get this to all make sense and focus there. So I've talked about the sports bill, the sports bar, the pro shop. Now let's step back. I'm going to show you the player development center and some changes to the golf course. There's a lot here. The PVC is, I think we finally have a home for it, Martin. Crooked side. Everybody agrees with me? The driving range, not a lot of changes, but we are thinking of kind of a single flow out to the golf course for the starter station. Both in terms of a little more personal grading as you go out to play, but also a little bit of control. A little bit of parking gain in here, a little bit of parking gain in here, then I'll jump over and kind of show you the flow now. Would be up and around into the backdrop. And we do pick up some spaces from eliminating that second putting green. I think those are the big things I want to show you here. You kind of see that footprint with how the building looks from the top down with that new pro shop added on, and then kind of a line of sight over to the nest and the pool with some hardscaping, but also some softer landscaping, trying to move some of the LSV's parking over here, and overall pickup parking, and then this is atrium here. Good? Again, send me questions. It's a lot to consume. There's a lot more behind it. I only have so much time. Crooked Oaks has been redone for 30 years. And again, Sean Mark put a note out on this, so hopefully it's not a surprise. Golf's the bigger driver of revenue for us, so we've got to maintain our golf courses. We're thinking a single renovation project rather than piecemeal, but again, to be determined. I think Sean here is Mark. We're thinking start in April and be able to reopen for the member guests. So we're trying to time box this with that principle. Yeah, we're thinking 27, so it's not 26, I don't know what's clear on that. We just, with the contractors, the work we still need to do, there's just no way to even come close to being successful in 26, so this is 27. Scope includes greens, bunkers, tee boxes, simplification of the maintenance of non-plane air, so it's a typo. But Sean and Martin and the Golf and Greens Committee really own that scope, working with Reese Jones, and we'll have that mapped out in more detail in 26. When you stand back, and as we talk about it, what's the timing of the renovation with the other parts of the investments we want to make in the practice areas and the PDC, we think we're going to put it all together and start at maybe 27, 28, but more to come on that. But I feel like these 8 projects are a good first tranche of projects. None of them are really shovel ready, so we still have more construction design work, we still have permitting work, so be patient with us. We wanted to show you these drawings as they came out, and there'll be more here in January. So next steps, we have the drawings, the renderings from KDC Wood Partners this Monday. The business case, we have drafts of those. We need to drop in the costs. KDC is working with a third party to do the cost estimates, so it's not John Carpenter and Tom Johnson's estimates. This is a third party that's building up these cost estimates, including furniture, fixtures, and the like. We'll have those for the January board meeting, and we'll share those out as soon as we get through those with the community for your comments and input. We're using the master plan website. Hopefully you have access to that. If you don't, send me a note. But we think that's the way to get the broadest amount of input rather than in-person meetings. You've seen the recommended phase 1 projects. We'll present the whole package again at the February board meeting, which will be a new board. So we'll have a ownership of the new board of these programs going forward. And then you'll get communications in early 26 if we move forward with any construction designs and permitting projects. Knock on wood, I hope it's at least the racket sports parking, but maybe a little more. So, a couple things just to close out. I want to thank the department heads. I see a lot of you here. Been a lot of work, a lot of input from them and their teams. Long Range Planning Committee, the House Golf and Greens Committee has really taken this on. Our partners, KDC and Woods, and then the Board of Governors has spent a lot of time on this as well. We appreciate your feedback from the focus groups, from the open houses, and anything you want to send us, from the short presentation today. Again, reach out to us. This is our club. We want your input. All right, let's transition. John and I are going to kind of ham and egg this. So we, as members, we're sitting around saying, all right, once we get these costs, how are we going to fund this? What is our available working capital? What's our cash that we can invest in these projects? So we put together a team from Long Range Planning and Finance, and they developed a very sophisticated model over several weeks to really look at our cash forecast out pretty far, 2030, 2035. Yeah. So we looked at both an upside case and a downside case. We had 6 years of financial history of forecasting and 10 years out into the future. And 8 big levers or key variables were assumed. And out of that came the following.
So the beauty of this model is it's sophisticated enough and current enough that we can constantly update it with actuals. But one of the keys to developing available cash is paying down our debt and our reimbursable equity. But our big debt payout is in 2030 and 31, and you can see that wrapping down very quickly towards 2031. And then the tail going out to 33 is an estimate of when the reimbursable equity would be paid. Give one more click. So if you look at all those variables, there's a lot more behind this. I'm not going to try and explain all of it. But if you look at the variables of paying down the debt, of looking at your operating profit, and looking at new members or a stagnant real estate market, all those variables put together, and we needed some stability in 2025 on our financial performance, and now in 2026, we're very confident with the department heads driving it, we'll have that financial discipline. That these are very reasonable estimates on the potential additional cash that can be generated if we choose to invest in projects. And one of the things I'd like to read real quick is I had a fellow board member send me a letter from 2018 that Bob Muirhood had sent out on Horizon 2. And it listed the projects very much like Tom had just done. And there's one phrase I thought really epitomizes how we feel about going forward with these projects. He wrote, simply put, we will not engage in any project that we cannot afford and that will put our strong financial position at risk. We're in a good position to do these things. We think there's some really good projects that make sense to invest in. But one of the other variables that we can use is time. So if we need to spread these out so that we don't get ourselves financially upside down, we'll do that. Thank you.
Thanks, Ellie. We'll shift to the general manager.
So that, go back to the slide, because I wanted to say this is a super accurate slide. I'm Jerry Finke and this is Ellen. So we're good to go, we got that far. And I thought I would just start by saying, as important and interesting of all the stuff you just heard from JT and Tom, we've reached the point in the meeting where Ellie and I have no spreadsheets and budget charts and whatever. We have a very simple 2-page table that we want to walk through. Self-explanatory, but just talk about it a little bit of narrative. We thought maybe the easiest way to bring you up to date on the GM search is to talk about what's been going on in the last 5 or 6 weeks and what the recruitment strategy is going forward. So one of the very first things that we had to do was look at whether we wanted to hire an interim GM. The board did hire an interim GM, I think his name was Steve Roper, during the last 2 transitions. And so the board looked at the pros and cons of whether we wanted to go that route again at this time, and that's kind of an important qualifier, the at this time, that I'll come back to a little bit later. But the board decided not to go that way, and there's 2 really important reasons that I think the membership should know why they said no to that interim. Number 1, we have incredible leadership on the board, and Lynn was willing to step forward with lots of extra time and effort to act as GM. And so on October 14th, the board formalized that by authorizing her as our acting GM. We also authorized a very temporary organizational chart so that the staff knew as issues and things bubbled up, they knew who to go to, and not everything had to flow directly to Lynn all the time. So that's also thanks to our VP and treasurer, and as you know, that's Tom and JT. So the board did that. And then Ellie and I started working with our great HR department. I hope you all know Mel. She's only been here about a little over and also with a private club recruiting and consulting firm. The name of that firm is the Club Council. You're welcome to Google it, go online, look at it. They have extensive, comprehensive experience, years and years of experience. So we started working with them, and one of the things we wanted to do was refine the job description, expand the job description, hoping to reach further down into the industry, maybe looking at some younger people, assistant GMs instead of folks that are just in the GM position right now. We also reordered some of the priorities and the skill sets we're looking for, hoping for a better cultural fit as we go forward. So the because of Lynn stepping forward and saying she would be our acting GM, that was the first reason we could avoid that in our GM. But the second reason is we have in place this incredibly professional and capable staff, especially at the senior management level. And they were willing to step forward and keep operations flowing, keep their staff happy, and we really can't thank them enough. And our feedback is members are out there playing golf, you're on the tennis courts, you're playing pickleball, you're dining, and I would say most of you don't even know that we've had this disruption at the senior management level because operations have just been fairly seamless the last 5 or 6 weeks. So anyway, with all that in place, I guess I'll add one more thing, since we just went over the budget. Not hiring an interim GM means we're saving the club money, and it also means we have one less transition, both for the board and for the staff, that there's not that transition in and out of the interim GM. So anyway, at that point, we needed a search committee to help us, and we're tag teaming, so Ellie's going to talk about search committee.
So we got suggestions for names from board members, from members in general, and we appreciate all of that. We also want to thank the last search committee who gave us a lot of ideas and suggestions, which was very helpful. And we chose 5 people to join the 2 of us. So it's Mike Bach, Debbie Vinegar, Chris Dudzik, Pam Curley, and Steve Pasquale. So we think that they have great qualifications. There's educational and legal searches and recruiting and business experience. Our goal is to hire the best GM that we can find with the qualifications that we're looking for. We also have Mel helping us along the way, as well as the recruiting team. We've asked the department heads to choose 3 representatives of their group so that they can share with us their input, which we think is vital to this search. What they want, we want. We want to keep them happy, which makes everybody else happy. They'll come up with a list of characteristics that we hope to see in the new GM. So, am I doing this part?
Yep, this is awesome. Okay. As we kind of did a walkthrough with this, somebody said, what does candidate development mean? It's what's going on right now. The search committee has met, kind of discussed our goals, procedures, and everything. But at this point, we're taking a step back and letting HR and TCC do their jobs. So they're out there mining their resources. TCC has represented clubs all across the country, north, south, east, and west. They're reaching out to possible candidates, doing interviews, sometimes following up with the first, second, third interview. They do the initial vetting, some kind of personality analysis for us. The deep dive into background checks we won't do until we have final candidates because it does cost a lot of money for the comprehensive background check. But anyway, we're kind of waiting at this point while they do their job and identify possible candidates for us. And so that brings us to December 12th.
So, December 12th, the recruiting firm will present the candidates that they looked at and feel best fit us. And we got a little sneak preview from Mel, who said they're so excited about the people that they're working with. So we hope that's a good sign. At that time, the committee can see who those candidates are, their backgrounds, and we'll get together, we'll discuss them, and then we select which candidates we want to interview. So then that leads us to December 18th and 19th. The search committee will interview chosen candidates by Zoom, which was TCC's preference that we all Zoom from home so we're not all in one room talking all at the same time. And then through the next few weeks, we'll continue to discuss, review, and choose the final candidates for on-site visits.
So the rest of our chart, again, self-explanatory. We hope by the first week in January, we'll be able to identify 3 or 4 finalists to bring on-site for person, face-to-face interviews, for introductions to the board, introductions to staff, tour of the campus, meeting members who are, out and about. Hopefully, that there's a great candidate, an extraordinary candidate in there that we can extend an offer to by mid-January. And depending on their employment circumstances, the notice they have to give, we hope, all fingers and toes crossed, that we would have a new gym in place by late February or by the 1st of March. So that kind of sums up the process. Before we sit down, there's 3 things to kind of make a point about. Number 1, you now know who the search committee is. And you may have all kinds of questions for them, or you've heard rumors of who our candidates are. Kind of keep in mind that if you're an assistant GM, even a GM at a club up north, out west, and you love your job, but you're totally intrigued by coming to the Seabird Island Club, you don't want people calling up and checking on you or trying to check your references. There's even some legal constraints about what you can ask in those reference checks. But for that reason, everything is confidential. So if you walk up to a committee member or to Ellie or to me and say, oh, I heard, Jeff Peters from Ohio has applied and he's a great guy, my brother belongs to the club, we're all going to say we signed an NDA and not say a word. It's very, very important, that confidentiality. So we appreciate your understanding that we can discuss that. So the second thing is, this is an estimated timeline. It's driving us, it's driving Mel, it's driving TCC. But when we get down here to the end of the year in January, if we do not have an extraordinary candidate that we think is finally that great cultural match with the talents and skills we want, we're going to then probably say to the board, hey, it's time to pull the option, hire an interim GM, and let's go back to the search. So again, timeline is driving us, it's keeping us busy, but it's not like the final word on when we're going to have a GM. So the third thing, I'm going to go back to staff again, of how they're keeping everything rolling along, and to Lynn. So a lot of the department heads are here, so I'd love all you guys to give them a big round of applause.
Okay, one last thing is, Jerry and I are just honored to be able to do this for the club. I think all of our search committee is too. So we hope you have some faith in us, and we hope that we can provide good leadership for the club for years to come.
No, we're totally frightened about it.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
So before I talk about this, I just would like to say, I've been in this role for the last 6 weeks. I think we've had 6 department head meetings. It's so cool to see all the department heads defer to each other, ask each other questions, team up on things. I can't even tell you, if you go in the kitchen once in a while, I don't know how they do that. I don't know how the golf course is set up all the time in perfect shape. It's just, they're doing a phenomenal job. So I want to give a round of applause to them for giving me. I'm really looking forward to the large bonus that I'm going to be sometime in February. All right, so 2026 Board of Governors candidates, I want to give you a sense of what that process has been like. Very similar to years past, but I think it's important that we all understand how this process works and how we get to this slate of candidates. So Dean Goodwin, Dean, are you still here? Dean Goodwin is the chair of the nominating committee this year. We started working together back in the spring, April, May, talking about the process and people who he thought would be good on the committee. The committee members for the nominating committee, Nancy Buck, Lindy Small, Tim Ely, Lynn Richards, Brian Wemmick, and Missy Whitmore. The objective here, as with many of our committees that we have, how do we get a mix of membership levels, genders, age, demographic, interest level. So these were the individuals that were part of the nominating committee, and they are a mix of all those things. We identified 4 open board seats, so I will be leaving, George Conduit will be leaving, Donna Brown will be leaving, and John Carpenter is up for re-election. We went to Dean and his group and said, all right, here's what we're looking for. Here are the gaps in skills and knowledge that we need. I mean, as John mentioned, we're running a big business, income of $34 million. I mean, it's a big business. So finance is one of our requirements this year. Legal, it seems like every time we turn around, there's a legal something that we have to address. We've got a master plan project. We need someone with project management or construction, something that can help us with that master plan. We also look for people who have done things with the club and the POA and the town on committee assignments. So we wanted to make sure that they had experience with clubs. Now we have some people who have belonged to other clubs and played those same kind of roles in committees and leadership there. So that's a couple of the other things that we were considering. Invitation went out to everybody at the beginning of the summer. We had 10 members submit applications, which is Lindsay was 100% more than the year before. Woohoo! So you know, I do think though that, I don't know, I think the board today really, let me say this, we get along, I think we work well together, and I'm hoping that we have showed membership here that it can be a fun thing to do as opposed to, boy, I don't want to be on next door, next week. I think it's been really smooth the last couple of years, so I'm hoping that encourages more people to actually sign up for these roles. Interviews, reference checks. I believe there were 3 reference checks that were required. The committee did interviews, and these are the 4 candidates that are on the slate for 2026. John Carpenter, Glenn Cacciolo, Chuck Cross, and David Shields. So I want to say thank you to the nominating committee. I want to say thank you to the people here. So the ballots, I believe, will go out first week of January, Lindsay, somewhere there. The first, you're going to do it on New Year's Day? Yeah, no, she's not going to do it on New Year's Day. So be on the lookout for that. The other thing that we're going to do is we're going to do a Meet the Candidate night. On Zoom. I think SPOA has done that before. I think we've done it before as well. So it will give you a chance to learn a little bit more about these 4 candidates. An email is going to go out early next week asking you to submit questions you'd like them to answer. And we'll try to combine those questions and come up with 4 or 5 questions that each of the candidates answer. We're looking to do that in the first 2 weeks of December. So be on the lookout for that. All right, and it's 5 o'clock. Imagine that. Questions from the audience? Come on up.
Hi, my name is Kevin Dunn. I've been a member since 1997. I wanted to ask about probably the most important question. You mentioned that this is a very large business, and I agree with you. You need a real senior executive to come in and take control of the club. So I want to ask and follow up on all the hard work that's been going on, but the vetting process. What's the learning of the vetting process? We've had, truth be told, 4 general managers in the past 5 years. That's not a good situation. We want to have a general manager that lasts multiple years.
You and me both.
I would imagine. So what's the learning that has gone on? We had a general manager here for just a few months. What if the vetting process was a mess? I'd like to understand. Let me just go on a little bit more. From that learning, though, what has been learned? What has been changed? I heard a little bit of a generalization with respect to the vetting process going on now. It sounds very much like the vetting process for the last general manager. So what are the changes that are going on to make that a better process, to improve it? So we have then a general manager that's going to come on board and last for a very large business. Thank you.
The vetting with the search committee over the last couple of years were members who worked very hard, put a lot of time in it, and I can tell you, like, the written responses, the prompts from our previous two general managers were perfect. We looked at them on paper and everything, and you would have said, oh my gosh, we've got to get these folks. The problem was they weren't a good cultural fit. They came from smaller clubs, elite clubs, or whatever. So one thing we wanted to change up this time, and we talked to TCC at length about, is really emphasizing how unique our club and our community are. We need to take a deep dive into that so we can find that cultural fit, and so that the candidates we're bringing in understand that. We are a very large club membership-wise, comparing clubs at this level. We have an older membership. We have a membership that's very diverse on the economic strata. And also here, when our members play golf or play tennis, they don't hop in the car and drive through the traffic in town to get back to their house. Our members drive around the corner, go home, walk their dogs, run into everybody else walking their dogs. It's just a total different atmosphere. And also, we have a membership that cares super deeply about our staff. They're not just employees. So we have really asked TCC to alert the candidates about that, to talk to them about that, to do that screening, because it was a cultural fit before. We got some gentlemen in that had great pedigrees, so this time we're like, we don't need the pedigree, we need the skill sets, the communication skills, and taking that deeper dive. It's a crapshoot in a lot of ways, but we're going to try to not just ask for written responses, we want to ask a lot of situational questions, like how would you respond, how would you handle that? So yes, it sounds like same old, but we really tried to tweak it and take a deeper dive into what Secret Island Club is all about. And that was it.
So another thing that we took a look at was the last two GMs that we had were at the end of their career. And I don't think they were quite flexible enough to work with, like Jerry said, this culture in this club. We'd like to see somebody mid-career who's looking for a challenge, who plans on staying for a while, not retiring in 2 years. And I think the part that Jerry said about working with the employees, a lot of you don't know what went on in the background, but in certain cases it wasn't a great fit. So we want somebody who is happy to join our culture, appreciate our employees, and we just think that we can find somebody outside the box, assistant GM who's ready to hop into a GM position. Maybe somebody from hospitality that is run a really high-end hospitality unit. Just a different type of person than what we've had in the past. We think that that might be the key to working this out.
Hi, George Shane. Congratulations on getting 10 people for the board. My question is, you've got 4 positions, why only nominate 4? Why not nominate 5 or 6 so we actually have an election as opposed to not having?
There are definitely schools of thought on doing it one way or the other, a lot of rationale for having a slated election as opposed to what sometimes just turns into a popularity contest. So making sure that the nominating committee really vets the people who put their hats in the ring. And we're obviously constrained with the number of total board members we can have. What is it, 12, 13? 13 is the maximum. So we've gone back and forth, George, on which do we have. I think, so you guys do you can vote that more than, how many candidates do you guys have this year? 5 candidates for 4 slots. It's just something we've really dug into over the years, and we find that this is the best way to get the best candidates to create. Next question?
Hello, Raymond Hamilton. So you had mentioned, as far as the hiring process for the GM, one of the goals is to be a cultural fit with the employees. When I saw the selection committee, I didn't see any department head. Will they be interviewing them as well?
Yes, the short answer is yes. I think that's one of the things that we're really focusing on. Now, you don't want the staff picking their next boss. I mean, that's kind of, you don't want that to happen. But we definitely have, I think there are 3 department heads from the group that are going to be responsible for collecting the questions and the things that they want of this general manager. So we can use that to vet the final candidates that we choose. Chosen by their peers, actually.
Okay.
Yep. So I will say one other thing about how we've created the job description for the GM this time. We ordered the top 2 issues, kind of engages with members, engages with staff, over and over again in the job description. I think that was, in my opinion, that was what was missing the last time. And that's, our culture needs a general manager who is involved with the members and involved with the employees, and that's absolutely critical to our community. Questions? Yes?
All right, so
A long way back there.
I appreciate everything, and I'm talking about big things, radio things. I don't get maybe in the weeds a little bit. So I have, my name is Amy Hannigan, and I've been a member since 2014. My parents were members since the 1970s. So, and I was actually having coffee this morning with 2 members that have been here for a number of years. They made a comment that it's like, we can't create change. The only way we can vote is to move and leave. That's, they kind of given up. The only way we can create change is to leave Seabright. That is their view. I feel different. But one issue that I have had, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I've raised it for 10 years now, is our hours of operation. I've talked to you before. I sent emails to Mitchell. There would be meetings, he said we don't have staffing issues, but then he would say, well, we kind of do, but maybe we kind of, I don't know, maybe publicly we don't want to say it, but, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but to the best of my knowledge, our hours of operation are available for the next 10 days. I haven't seen anything else. Every year, every month, I look. I believe, through November 30th. Many of us are part-time. I own a home here. I don't rent. Like, I need to know the hours for December. I want to know the hours for February. Any other business, any other club, people know their hours. I think it's great that every week you publish, the current life hours, but right now we need to know the hours for the full year of next year. We need to know if there's staffing issues that we can't control, and so our club can only decide month to month how we're going to operate, and I feel like the board should be transparent. So anyway, it's just been an ongoing issue for many years, and I really think that we should try to we're doing great things, but we miss a lot of the basic things of running a business that we need. I mean, I don't know, but I'd like to see a calendar for next year published this month, so that people can know when we're open. Can we just, like, our dining, what we can rely on? Because we can't rely on it, and it's hard to go to Charleston, it's hard to go to Maybank Highway. What can we rely on? We don't know. And correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think the December operation hours are published.
I haven't looked for the December hours. If we had a consistent number of people going to our dining, for example, it would be easy. It's such a seasonal business, seasonal employees, seasonal
Right, but I
members.
think that should be fixed. We made a decision, the board made a decision to do away with the minimum spending. I don't think the food and beverage should be looked at as a standalone operation of how to make money. As a club, we need to rely on, if we can get food and beverage, if the golf has to supplement it, so be it. If we need higher dues, so be it. We need a baseline that we can depend on. Anyway, that to me has been a problem for at least 10 years.
Okay, thank you. I do know that Chef's working on a calendar. Is that right, Chef?
Yeah, it's finalized.
Okay.
So January, December's done.
December's done. Okay. All right, yes, go ahead.
Hi, this is actually my first member meeting because we're here part-time. I've been member since about 2000. We've had 4 homes here. One thing I noticed with the candidates to the board is anybody on the board a part-time resident? Or is everybody full-time resident?
No, that's not true. Who's part-time now? George is part-time. You're away in the summertime.
But overall, you don't have anyone who's working in another city that is actually here part-time. I think that's one thing you need to be sensitive to. A lot of the income, my husband was on the board before, is from part-time residents. And many activities are actually geared to full-time residents, as in everything is during the week. Very few member activities are during the weekend. And so I would actually just ask everybody here who's on the board, who's running, to think about some of your part-time residents, because this is a lot of our income. And also not to be so negative toward renters, because that also supports the club. And that's the way that a lot of people get exposed to the island, is to rent first. I've been a member of 4 different clubs, and there was a club in North Carolina that stopped renting, and it went down into the gutter. The home values plummeted, and they had problems attracting people. So that's it. So when you do the committees, maybe consider getting some part-time residents that can do the meetings remotely.
So I will say all of our committees, as we go through selecting people for all the committees, that is a factor in how we select people, because we know a huge part of our population doesn't live here full-time.
Correct.
Not many times because I'm part-time on the social committee.
And we do most of the committee, I think the committee that doesn't have Zoom capability.
Anyway, it's been a deal. I just wanted to state this because I know a lot of our income comes from part-timers, and I think the club needs to be more sensitive to the part-time members and have more activities on weekends when more of us are here.
Well, I don't know how many people volunteered in the 10 for the board. That is not a knockout factor if you are not a full-time resident. So, but
Right. My husband was on the board as a part-time resident, but he's the only one, and that was a few years ago. He was on for several years. But anyway, that's it. Thank you. I love the club. It's amazing. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. One more question?
One quick one. Are we using the same firm to hire people that we used to get Martin?
No. They had through the PGA. I know. We want another Martin.
Yes, I think, I wanted to say for Martin, I don't know if he's here.
He's right. Go ahead, stand up, Martin. You're already here.